Hey everybody, my name is Dr. Vishwanath Danthaluri. I go by Dr. D, and I work for the Beltline Bariatric and Surgical Group in Atlanta, Georgia. And today I wanted to make available to everyone um, basically the components of my seminar or a brief review of the things that we discussed in the consultation. So this is a PowerPoint version of the post-consultation review, and I hope you find this helpful. After your visit today, I really hope you find yourself already feeling welcomed by our Beltline Health team, more confident, more educated, and more supported. But we did cover a lot in a short period of time, and if you're like many patients, you took time out of a busy day of work and had to squeeze in this appointment and get back to doing whatever it is you do. So I do know that there was a lot that happened today, from filling out paperwork, trying to listen to me, meeting with the coordinator. So I hope this slideshow is a good review for you. And so with that, I want to highlight what are the goals of this review seminar. It is to understand, why is it tough to lose weight? What are the surgeries and how do they work? And then what happens next? For this segmented version of the post-consultation review, I do want to focus on why it is that people fail to lose weight, and maybe why is it that after years of trying to lose weight you couldn't, and ultimately that influenced why you came to see us today. So the short answer to this is something called metabolic adaptation, which is something that we're learning more about as scientists with each passing few months or year. And in the office visit today, I described it as follows. The thing about gaining weight is that if we could really go back in life and do it all over again, and by the way, I think this is how we need to fundamentally change the way we think about food and how we educate ourselves about food from the get-go, back to when you were a child. We need to understand that the key to not having an unhealthy weight or finding ourselves in a pattern of failed weight loss is to try not to gain the weight in the first place. There are so many factors that go into why we lose weight and how we ended up at the unhealthy weight we're at. To highlight a few: genetics. Some people are prone to put on weight more easily than others. Societal and environmental factors. What kind of food did you have access to growing up? What kind of food were your parents able to feed you? Societal other norms, such as how can most people afford to eat healthy in the time crunch imposed upon us from our workload? These are just some of the many factors that play a role. But the bottom line is, we ended up at an unhealthy weight, which prompted us to seek out some form of medical weight loss, dieting, exercise, and then if that didn't work repeatedly, now we're thinking about surgery. But since we can't go back in time and undo all of the things that led us to gain that unhealthy weight, I want to talk about why it's hard to lose weight. The reason it's hard to lose weight is that we evolved mechanisms that make it easy to put on weight and that make it extremely difficult to lose weight. There are exceptions, of course, and I'll go over that in a minute, but the bottom line is this. Our gut is extremely efficient at extracting calories from whatever it is that we eat. Not that long ago, when we were more primitive and we didn't know where food was coming from, and we maybe physically had to go hunt something down or dig it up or grow it and invest a lot of labor and time into that, we couldn't afford to eat a meal and not get every little calorie out of that. And when I say calorie, I'm referring to macronutrients that make up calories like lipids, carbs, and proteins. So we have anywhere from 16 to 20 feet of intestine, a tremendous surface area that allows us to extract calories from what we eat, and it's extremely efficient. And guess what? Your gut doesn't care that now dense calories line the shelves of our grocery stores or our pantries. You see, we've done a good job as human beings taking these macronutrients and packing them into a convenient little packaged meal or snack. So our gut is doing what it evolved to do, which was not missing a single calorie. The second part of this is that the gut doesn't just digest food, it also is a highly active hormonal organ system, and it makes its own set of various peptides or proteins, signaling molecules, and hormones, which then go and communicate to our brain. In our brain, and specifically in the hypothalamus, we have processes that control and maintain our weight. Basically, not only are we efficient at extracting the calories, our brain makes us extremely stingy about giving up those calories that we worked hard to put on, and it tries to regulate how we store those calories on our body. So what typically happens is when you start trying to lose weight, your brain and the hypothalamus, through various factors, can affect your metabolism. So right when you're losing some weight and feeling good, like, hey, I got this, I can burn this weight off, at different set points for different people, these protective evolutionary mechanisms kick in to keep you from losing any more weight. So that's typically that stall out or that plateau we all hit in weight loss when we're doing our typical dieting and exercising. And I'm going to go into that in a little bit of detail, but the bottom line, as illustrated in this picture, on the right side, the gut, stomach, via signaling pathways along the vagus nerve and other bloodstream derived signaling mechanisms, communicates with the brainstem and the hypothalamus. There's also intricate connection pathways between the hypothalamus and our reward, motivation, or addiction centers in our brain. And like I said, hormones and nutrients play a role here too. So there's this complex interplay between our gut and our brain that controls all of this. So to define metabolic adaptation, it's a process by which the body alters how efficient it is at processing food for energy. Metabolism decreases when we start to lose weight. So like I was saying before, one of the key factors here is when the body starts to detect this calorie deficient state or a starved state from the diet you're on and you're burning calories, it can immediately reset that, I may have called it this in the office, your metabolic rate thermostat, to drop your metabolism down. And once your metabolism drops down, no matter what you're doing over here to try to burn more calories, it stays low. So you may even start trying to push harder, exercise even more, diet even harder, but you'll notice that the needle doesn't move, and that's because your body actively has dropped your metabolic rate down, so it's not working congruently with the amount of effort you're putting in. Like I said, many gut hormones are involved. I tend to make the talk abbreviated in the office consultation, I focus on ghrelin. Ghrelin is a key hunger hormone. It's the most potent hunger stimulator that we know about today. So the reason I mention that is the secondary thing that happens is not only is your metabolism drop, your gut hormone ghrelin production starts to go way up. So right when you're having a low metabolism, you can't burn weight, ghrelin is really starting to peak, and it's starting to make you feel hungry. It starts to make you crave those carbs, and just generally makes you hungry, and really increases your cravings to go seek out calories when you're trying hard to suppress that and be diligent with your diet. So we know that weight loss increases ghrelin levels, causing more hunger as patients lose weight. So that's just another mechanism fighting your ability to lose weight. This hormone, along with others, can affect our metabolism. I'm going to talk more about how removing ghrelin, i.e. by doing a sleeve gastrectomy, seems to directly impact this metabolic regulation pathway, and it's why we can afford such extraordinary weight loss with the surgeries. I wanted to illustrate everything I just said by using this graph. On the y-axis or left side of the screen is weight, and of course time on the x-axis. This is just a generic model starting from when we're born into adolescence and adulthood. We gain weight. It's part of growing. But at some point we exceed what should be our ideal body weight for our height and our gender, and we decide, hey, I want to start a diet. That's the green star there. And so probably, for, like I said, for different people of different ethnicities, backgrounds, and genders, and for mechanisms we don't know, genetics, like people can lose a different amount of weight in a different amount of time. But the bottom line is, you start a diet, you start to lose weight. Well, for most of us, metabolic adaptation kicks in at that point, and it makes it harder and harder to lose weight. And if you're like many people, actually the weight doesn't budge, and you start to regain weight. And the key thing with the blue metabolic adaptation arrow is that your metabolism is dropped. And I want to highlight here that your weight, when your metabolism is dropped and those hunger hormones and cravings are kicking in and you're frustrated, you start to gain weight actually rapidly. You may gain weight even more rapidly after an attempted diet than before, because that metabolism is so low. And guess what? It tends to stay low until you overshoot the weight you were at when you wanted to start the diet in the first place. So I tried to show that here as a slight overshoot from where that green star is. And then you may start again. Let me try a different diet. I did Weight Watchers last time. I'm going to try this new keto thing. That worked for my girlfriend or my buddy at work. And then weight will start to go down, but metabolic adaptation still kicks in. Weight regain happens again, and again an overshoot. And this is just me showing like attempts at various stages in your life. But guess what? Nothing changes. If anything, your metabolism gets slower with age. But the other thing I want to factor in here, it's not just you and your metabolic adaptation and susceptibilities. We all are victims of some stressors in our life. This could be a pregnancy if you're a female, and or a job stress, loss of a loved one. Certain things can make us rapidly gain more weight. Particularly stress can lead to stress eating. That's a whole separate topic. But for whatever reason, there's a rapid, sharp upswing in our weight. The most common reason for my ladies especially is a pregnancy. And once you get up there, some natural weight loss happens after every pregnancy, but guess what? There's still metabolic adaptation. For some reason, our body and our brain control centers don't care where the weight came from or how it got there. The point is, once the weight is on, it's like a super stingy savings account or something where it's really hard to extract money from that. Your body doesn't want to give up these calories that it worked hard to put on us, because I guess it thinks it's waiting for some kind of famine or prolonged period where we can't hunt down our food, or couldn't go, kind of hunt and gather food. Again, these are primitive mechanisms. I do think they evolved for a reason many, many years ago, but the body doesn't realize, hey, in modern society, I don't have to be that efficient or that stingy with these calories. So weight regain happens again. The bottom line is, over the course of a lifetime, we've probably all experienced these ebbs and flows of trying to lose weight, with the overall trend being positive weight gain. So this is where I think it's good to transition and talk about why you made the right choice to come and see us today. Why are you ready for surgery? According to the NIH, National Institutes of Health expert panel that convened a few years ago, they found that long-term weight loss is nearly impossible to maintain for those affected by severe obesity. So we want to be a little specific there in saying that we're talking about once your BMI is over 35, especially over 40. by any other means than weight loss surgery. That's based on many, many studies and meta-analyses and what have you. Only 2 to 5% of people with severe obesity are able to keep weight off at 5 years following a diet and exercise program. That, as opposed to weight loss surgery, we can see that most weight loss surgery patients can keep the weight off at 5 years at a much higher rate. We're talking 60, 70%. And lastly, I want you to know that you are not alone. You're not the only patient that walked into the clinic today. You're certainly one amongst, we think, thousands, if not millions out there that are thinking about kind of making this commitment and going for a surgical weight loss option. 34.9% of American adults live with obesity. I actually think this is an old stat. I think it's higher, closer to 40% now. Obesity affects 1 in 6 children, sadly, in the U.S. And I leave that point in here because, again, if we can go back and do it different, or we need to start thinking very pragmatically and differently about how to get ahead of this obesity epidemic, and it's to really fundamentally change the way we educate our children, what we offer our children to eat, the habits we help them form. And I also include this slide now because if you're making the decision to proceed with surgery and you have children at home, get them on board. You want them, it's never too late. You want them to see how you can change your life, change the way you eat, approach food, think about food, and you know, they're part of the family, and we should all be going through this together. The medical care costs associated with obesity as of 2014 were estimated to be $149 billion. This, of course, is really attributed to the fact that once we have an unhealthy weight, or we're obese, the medical problems that come along with that, your hypertension, diabetes, etc., high cholesterol, which after dealing with those diseases for multiple years, end up affecting our organs and causing end-stage renal disease, cardiovascular disease, myocardial infarctions or heart attacks, strokes, etc. So many things are tied to obesity, so getting ahead of it, getting on top of it, fixing it for yourself at a relatively younger age is how we hope to also, as we can see, fiscally affect our overall healthcare costs and your costs personally. Obesity has nearly doubled worldwide since 1980, so this used to be an issue with Western cultures, more advanced societies, but I can tell you, even personally, having been back to where my family's from in India over the decades, I have personally seen the average size of people walking around the streets has increased. It's really quite alarming. All right, so that concludes the introductory portion of the post-consultation review slideshow with me, Dr. D. I wanted to tell anyone listening to stay tuned for more informative content to be posted here at the Beltline Bariatric YouTube channel. You can also connect with me directly at Dr. D Surgery on Instagram and Facebook. My next section will focus on the various surgical options and how they work. So stay tuned for that content. Have a great day.